Welcome to Simple Life Fables, where we explore the deepest corners of the human spirit through stories of resilience and faith. Today, we tell the story of Arav, a man who lost everything he held dear, only to find something far greater. Sometimes life strips away our comfort and security, leaving us naked in the storm, forcing us to discover who we truly are. Years ago, Arav lived a simple and happy life with his father, a master carpenter who taught him the value of work. They had little money, but their home was filled with laughter, love, and the rhythmic sound of tools shaping beautiful wood. But destiny is often unpredictable, and a sudden illness took his father away, leaving Arav alone in a cold and vast world. Before his tears could dry, relatives who were never present arrived like vultures, claiming rights to the house and the land. They used legal loopholes and cruel deception to seize everything, pushing the grieving young man out of his own childhood home. The door that once welcomed him was now shut forever, symbolizing the end of his past life and the start of darkness. He walked through the village hoping for support, but friends turned their faces away, afraid to be associated with his misfortune. With nowhere to go, he found shelter in a broken hut by the river, a place forgotten by time and people. His inheritance was nothing but this ruin and a cracked water jar, a cruel joke compared to what he once had. The cold wind pierced his skin that night, but the coldness of human betrayal pierced his heart even more painfully and deeply. He looked at his reflection in the cracked jar and saw a ghost, a man who had lost his identity completely. He tried to find work, but the rumors spread by his relatives made him an outcast in the village he loved. He felt like a ghost, walking among the living, invisible and unheard, screaming silently into the void of his lonely existence. In his darkest hour, he cried out to the heavens, asking why he was punished when he had done nothing wrong. It was then that Mohan, an old farmer with eyes full of wisdom, passed by and saw the young man's despair. Mohan did not offer pity. Instead, he offered a piece of bread and sat down beside him in companionable silence. The old man pointed to an empty cup and said, "Only when a vessel is empty can it be filled again." He explained that Arav's loss was not a curse, but a clearing of space for something new and better to enter. You have been emptied of false friends and material possessions so that you can be filled with strength and true purpose. That simple conversation lit a spark in the darkness, a tiny flame of hope that began to warm Arav's frozen heart. The next morning, Arav did not beg. Instead, he stood up and began to clean the debris around his humble hut. He fixed the leaking roof with his own hands, channeling his grief into physical labor, rebuilding his sanctuary, piece by piece. He turned the barren land around him into a garden, planting seeds of hope that would soon grow into sustenance. Remembering his father's teachings, he gathered driftwood from the river and began to carve simple but useful tools and spoons. One day, a weary traveler passed by, and his cartwheel broke right in front of Arav's small roadside dwelling. Without hesitation, Arav used his skills to fix the wheel, working with the precision and grace of a master carpenter. The traveler was amazed by the quality of the work and offered money, but Arav smiled and gently refused the payment. He asked only for some seeds to plant. The traveler, touched by his integrity, gave him enough supplies for a month. The traveler left, but he carried the story of the talented carpenter, spreading the word far and wide across the land. Soon, villagers who had once ignored him began to arrive, bringing broken chairs and tables, seeking his skilled hands. Arav worked day and night, pouring his soul into every piece, his reputation growing stronger with every satisfied customer he served. The broken hut transformed into a sturdy workshop, surrounded by a blooming garden that reflected the life returning to his soul. He was no longer the beggar by the river. He was Arav the carpenter, a man who had rebuilt his dignity. Success did not make him arrogant. Instead, He shared his harvest with the poor, remembering the hunger he once felt. The cracked jar that once symbolized his broken life now held fresh flowers, a reminder that beauty can grow from cracks. Years passed, and the young man who had nothing became the most respected merchant in the region, known for his wisdom. One day, a group of ragged people came to his door, begging for work, their faces worn by time and poverty. Arav looked closely and recognized them. They were the same relatives who had thrown him into the street years ago. They did not recognize the strong man before them. They only saw a wealthy owner who might save them from starvation. For a moment, anger flared in his heart. He remembered the cold rain and the closed door of his childhood home. But then he remembered the empty cup. If he held on to anger, his heart would never be free to receive peace. He chose forgiveness over revenge. He ordered his servants to bring food and water to the people who had hurt him. As they ate, he gently revealed who he was. Shock and shame washed over their faces as they realized the truth. They fell to their knees, begging for mercy. But Arav lifted them up, his eyes clear and free of any hatred. He told them, "Do not apologize. Your cruelty forced me to find my own strength. You pushed me towards my destiny." He gave them enough to start over, but sent them on their way. He had forgiven, but he also had wisdom. He returned to his work, his heart lighter than ever. He realized that losing everything was the greatest gift he received. He walked by the river where he once cried in despair. The silence was no longer lonely. It was full of presence. He felt the presence of the old farmer and his father. He knew they were guiding him through every trial he faced. When he had no one, he thought he was abandoned. Now he understood that when you have no one, you have God. Like a tree that grows strongest in the wind, adversity had strengthened his roots and expanded his capacity to give shade. He dedicated the rest of his life to teaching others, ensuring that no one else would feel as helpless as he did. His face no longer held the shadows of the past. It shone with the light of a man who had conquered himself. He realized that true wealth is not what you have in your pocket, but what you carry inside your indomitable soul. Under the vast canopy of stars, he finally understood the lesson. The empty cup was never truly empty. It was waiting. It was waiting to be filled with faith, with courage, and with a love that does not depend on worldly possessions. He wrote in his journal, "When the world abandons you, do not despair. It is an invitation to meet your Creator." His life became a beacon for the village, a living testament that rock bottom can be the solid foundation for greatness. Years later, when young men came to him feeling lost, he would smile and share the secret of the empty cup. He taught them that rejection is merely redirection, and that solitude is the best place to hear the voice of truth. Like a phoenix rising from the ashes, we must be willing to burn away our old selves to be born again. Arav looked in the mirror one last time. He saw the scars, but he also saw the strength they had created. Life is a river. Sometimes it flows smoothly, sometimes it crashes against rocks, but it always finds its way to the ocean. He closed his eyes and breathed in the present moment. He was no longer a victim. He was the master of his fate. Remember Arav's story when you feel alone. Remember that your cracks are simply the places where the light enters your soul. Do not be afraid of being left with nothing, for in that emptiness, you possess the potential to create absolutely everything. Trust in the process, trust in the struggle, and most importantly, trust that you are never truly walking this path alone. Your legacy will not be defined by what you gathered for yourself, but by what you gave away to others. Arav continued to carve, to build and to love, carrying his father's spirit in every stroke of his skilled hands. Let this story be a reminder that even the darkest night will end and the sun will always rise again. Hold on to your faith, keep working on your craft, and believe that your empty cup is preparing for a great feast. Thank you for watching Simple Life Fables. If this story touched your heart, Please subscribe and share the light with others.